I'm Laurel Wood. I work for UK Police Department in the Division of Crisis Management and Preparedness. I've been here at UK for almost 11 years. I came to UK from state government and a regional government organization, and I love it here. And they took a chance on me and hired me to do business continuity planning, and I've been here ever since. So today we're kicking off Thriving Thursdays in a series that we are celebrating for National Work and Family Month. And in the month of September, I know we're now in October, but the month of September was also National Preparedness Month, National Campus Safety Month, and a few other related things in the month of September. So we're wrapping that up and we're kicking off a few new things. So during today's presentation, I've got quite a few slides to go through, but I don't let that scare you. I like to keep a fast-paced and upbeat presentation. And the first part will focus on an introduction to the Division of Crisis Management and Preparedness and what we do here for the police department. And then the second half, we'll talk about how all that ties into family disaster preparedness tips and strategies, and even some tips on how to do those things while here at UK on campus. So let me get started. I'm going to introduce you to the composition of UK Police. We are first responders to campus incidents and sometimes things that are adjacent to our campus properties. We have over 64 sworn officers, 13 telecommunications officers in our dispatch center here on campus, which is open 24/7. We also have over 100 security officers in 4 medical centers and 29 administrative professionals, including myself. UK Police Department is actually one of the top 10, not top 10, I'm sorry, one of the top 10 largest police departments in the state of Kentucky. So when you think about it, our population is quite large, especially on a game day, like a football home game day, when we're seating over 60,000 people in the stands and maybe another couple, 10 or 20,000 just outside of Kroger Field for tailgating. So our population really can expand and grow depending on the day. So the common challenges to the police department and all of its divisions are daily with emergency medical services and fire service that we rely on Lexington Fire Department. We also have quite a few theft and crimes of opportunity, unwanted guests. Yes, we are a public university, but sometimes we have to be on the lookout for people who cause trouble on our campus, and they usually get some kind of warning. We also have quite a few controversial speakers on both ends of the spectrum, and we try to stay abreast of those speakers and the types of risks that they bring to our campus. We also have unplanned incidents. Let me try to think of a few examples. Just common thing, uncommon things. There was a person who came to campus alerted to us by an outside agency, and we were able to approach them and arrest them when they got into campus properties. So that was definitely unplanned. Also, natural hazards are unplanned. So severe weather. And like I mentioned before, the athletics and university events that bring so many guests and visitors to our campus. We also have a public versus private campus access issues. You know, we try to install a lot of campus access controls all over the campus property, and we use that in order to prevent a lot of crimes of opportunity and to control some of our facilities a little better. And as you know, construction is always an issue and an opportunity for our campus to grow, but it also presents a lot of challenges. Sometimes we'll have a water main break or a gas line break due to construction, and we need to be ready to address those in a timely manner. So UK Police Department, one of the top 10 largest in the state. I don't want to bore you with this org chart, but I just want to highlight some of the separate divisions because a lot of people don't realize this. So off to the far left, I'm horrible with my left and my right, especially as I'm presenting on a screen. The far left, you'll see police operations. This is our patrol division. So this includes patrol of our campus properties and our special victims unit, our patrol and our special operations. A lot of those special operations are our flex team and our detective officers. And then toward the middle, we have different support services such as communications, records and property and evidence, retention and recruitment, and a polygraph unit, to name a few. We also are in charge of the central security system. So like I mentioned before, the access controls, the buildings and control of those buildings are managed by the police department. And then off to the right is our crisis management and preparedness division, where I am housed. I'll talk about that here in a minute. We also have an intelligence division that we lovingly refer to as CTAC. That's one of our newest divisions, and it's a partnership with several local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. We also have the UK healthcare operations for Chandler, Eastern State, and Good Samaritan hospitals. And last but not least, we also have community services, our wild card operations, your ID, a promotion and marketing division, professional standards, keeping us up to date on the most recent compliance standards. And we also help manage some of the campus contract securities. Next is the Division of Crisis Management and Preparedness, where I am held. I report to the Chief of Police via a Deputy Chief, an Administration Major, and a Campus Crisis Management and Preparedness Captain. We also have, so myself is the Business Continuity Director. We also have an Emergency Management Specialist, a Clery Compliance Officer, which I'll explain the role here in a minute, a Special Events Lieutenant, and a Healthcare Emergency Management Coordinator. So the mission of crisis management and preparedness is to coordinate and facilitate effective campus disaster response, mitigation, recovery, and to minimize the impacts of emergencies on the campus community, its facility, and our environment. So this is interesting. I always like to share this information. In years past, there's been a campus attitudes towards safety, the CAT survey. And within that survey, it was found that most students believe UK is safe, but too many believe that safety was not their own responsibility. In fact, more than 60% of students thought safety was not their own responsibility, but someone else's. So throughout our interactions across campus with students, staff, faculty, visitors, we try to emphasize individual responsibility in every way possible. So effective emergency response requires personal preparedness and planning. So I'm going to introduce you to the three types of planning that we do here in crisis management. And I am a planner by nature. I love planning things for my family. I love planning things here in my role at UK, and it just really fits my personality and what I strive to do both personally and professionally. So the first type of planning we're going to talk about is preparedness planning, followed by event and incident planning, and lastly, response and recovery planning. So let's get started with some preparedness planning. Our division is responsible for the campus emergency operations plan. And this is an overarching plan that guides the university on how and what to expect in emergency response. We also have a hazard mitigation plan. This includes mostly natural hazards, and it is done on a 5-year basis and is usually, it is approved by FEMA and adopted by our UK Board of Trustees. And it guides our hazard mitigation actions and plan for a period of 5 years. We're currently going through this 5-year process right now to update our plan. Preparedness planning also involves testing, training, and exercise, and I'll talk about the differences in those in a few minutes. I also want to give you a quick highlight of the Clery Act and how that correlates to UK Alert. And lastly, we'll talk a little bit about the campus community emergency response team that I lead. So yes, it does sound like a lot of planning, and it's nearly impossible to plan for everything. I know that I'm pretty good at thinking of the worst case scenario in every possible situation, but it's important to remember that we have to take an all hazards approach. We can't have a detailed plan and a what if for every possible scenario that we could be presented with on campus. So we try to focus on these 4 categories: naturally occurring events, technological events, man-made events, and the hazardous materials. So you heard me mention the hazard mitigation plan that we update every 5 years. And in the last plan that was updated in 2016, the campus hazard mitigation steering committee identified 12 natural hazards. So this year, we're also thinking of adding a couple other hazards, including, you guessed it, pandemic. We thought this was important to add as we identify mitigation actions that we can take in the next 5 years. It's important to know that you can't prevent these things from happening, but you can mitigate a lot of the effects from them or be better prepared. A lot of people are actually really surprised to see number 8, karst and sinkholes. This is actually extremely prevalent in central Kentucky, especially here on our campus. There's a large one that was discovered during the construction of W.T. Young Library, which is why you have the 2 bowl-shaped lawn areas on each side of the library. There's also quite a few at the UK Police Department headquarters over on Rose Street. And that's not all of them. Let me take a quick drink. So preparedness planning also includes testing. This confirms whether or not procedures or processes and systems function as needed. Excuse me. An example of this would be like a fire drill. Training would ensure that all personnel know what to do, how to do it, and when it should be done. And an exercise provides practice and verification of whether parts of the plan or the entire plan work as intended. So this might include a tabletop exercise, which is more like a discussion format. It could include drills or a functional exercise where multiple people and agencies are involved, or a full-scale exercise where you're going through all the motions with all the different agencies. And we like this to be done in this order. A lot of people, when they say they're interested in an exercise, they want to jump to a full-scale exercise, but it's important to start small and build up to that full-scale exercise. So event and incident planning. We like to refer to an event as something that is planned, and an incident is something that is unplanned. So we actually have a police lieutenant that reviews all university events, all drone flights, all concerts, all UK basketball, baseball, football, gymnastics meets, track meets. They review all of those events, Student Activities Board, with the Office of University Events and Risk Management. So they try to determine what type of police presence is needed depending on the size of the event and how many people will be there, and other risks that may be presented to the university as a result of planning that event. We also use that system for our tech division to schedule access to necessary university spaces. And then there's also some event action plans. These are large scale detailed plans for major events such as the concerts and controversial speakers that I mentioned before. And then we also have incident action plans. These are derived from event action plans only. They're done for unplanned events. This is usually done with a template that could be adapted as the incident progresses. And it's usually done last minute. Response and recovery planning. This is kind of my cup of tea. Every building on campus should have a building emergency action plan. This correlates with some of your evacuation protocols, and there's supposed to be a building emergency coordinator in every building. So I encourage you to get to know who that person may be. And sometimes in larger buildings, they even have a floor coordinator for understanding where to go when you need to evacuate, maybe even where to go when you need to shelter in place. Business continuity plans. This is a recovery plan on how to get back to normal for each department, and each department is different. What are some of the services that a department relies on? How could it come back to normal with not only its staff, but some of its supplies and its mission? And then after action reports, these are usually done for incidents on campus that we're not necessarily prepared for. And it's an opportunity to gather feedback from all departments involved and create a lessons learned document on what went right, what went wrong, how can we improve the response in the future. And it certainly is not a blame game, but more so an opportunity to learn from our past mistakes and what we can do better. So how do some of these plans fit into each other? So the building emergency action plan is what happens during the event. What do you need to do immediately? And the business continuity plan is how to phase in getting back to normal, or in the case of COVID, how to still try to get back to normal. So recovery as needed, of course that can happen greater than 30 days or even 3 years. So the business continuity planning, phase 1 focuses on readiness and preparedness. How well do your employees know what to do and how to access the information they need? Phase 2, where to activate and relocate if necessary. Phase 3, the continuity of operations, maintaining those essential business functions and continuing to deliver key products and services. And then finally, the reconstitution, getting back to normal, getting back in your normal space, reordering supplies if necessary. And those are the 4 phases of business continuity planning, essentially. Now, the Clery Act, this is something managed by our Clery compliance officer. It's a federal act. It's called the Jean Cleary Disclosure of Campus Security Policy and Crime Statistics Act of 1998. So the murder of Jean Cleary occurred in 1986 at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. She was a freshman at the time of her death and was raped and murdered in her campus residence hall room. So her parents, who believed the university had failed to share vital information with its students regarding campus safety, campaigned for legislative reform for several years following her death. So their efforts resulted in the passage of, in 1990, of the Clery Act. And this is a federal law requiring all universities and colleges receiving federal student financial aid to report crime statistics, alert campus of imminent dangers, and distribute an annual campus safety security report to current and prospective students, or the university will face fines. So actually this report just went out campus-wide, I believe, last week. It's required to be published before October 1st of every year. So I think it went out the beginning of last week if you're interested in taking a look at that. It shows crime statistics over a period of 3 years. It also supports victims of violence and publicly outlines the policies and procedures that have been put in place to improve campus safety. The Clery Act also establishes campus security authorities. These are people these are people that are required to report crimes that are reported to them, such as residence hall advisors, coaches, employees of the UK Police Department, student activity advisors. It does not apply to faculty, actually, which is kind of surprising. So by law, these people are required to report crimes that are reported to them. And it can be anonymous. Well, we don't need a name, but we usually need a location and a time of when it happened. UK Police also publishes a daily crime log, which is on our website. It is updated daily. And it is also as a result of our need to be compliant with the Clery Act. And I've also just talked about the annual safety and security report. And next, immediate notification. So this is when you receive a UK alert. We are required, and it is just common sense to alert people, whoever is signed up for UK alert. It should be all students and staff. Parents and media can also sign up for UK alert. If there's an immediate action required on your part, if you need to take shelter, if there's an active shooter, if there is a tornado warning and you need to take shelter, these kind of things will be broadcasted through UK alert and all of its mechanisms. So a timely warning, this is a little bit different. This is what we use to publish like maybe a series of crimes happening in a certain area. So it may not require immediate action, but you still need to know about it and be aware of it and take precautions. Campus crime bulletins are usually distributed by email and posted in the area, such as like a residence hall door for people to be able to read and review. And finally, the Menger Act. This is, whereas the Clery Act is a federal act, the Menger actually applies to the state of Kentucky. It was a result of an arson fire at Murray State University, where Michael Menger was killed. And it requires the university to report situations where arson is involved. So campus partnerships with UK Police, this will complete the first half of the presentation. We always try to emphasize, if you see something, say something. We can't always be there to understand what's going on in your facility. So we try to give responsibility to the designated authority of that facility to know the ins and outs and what the norms are for each area of campus. Facility employees know what seems odd, they know what seems normal, and it's important to recognize things that you think are odd. And it's never a problem to report something that you think might be dangerous or suspicious. Collaboration, where this is the part of my job that I love the most, is collaborating with so many different UK departments, the police, facilities groups, student groups, risk management, legal. We all work together. Nobody is above the other one. We leave our ego at the door and we try to come up with resolutions together. So let's switch gears and talk about some disaster tips. So you can probably guess, since I love planning and I'm a type A personality, I'm also a little bit of a control freak. And hopefully I'm not alone. And some of you can recognize this. But the reason I say this is you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you react to those things that are out of your control. This is so hard for me to understand and to practice, but disasters are going to happen. We cannot prevent them, but we can certainly mitigate the effects of them. So hopefully this part of the presentation will give you some tools for preparing you and your family for disasters and the effects they may have on your home and the environment. So household manager. What are some of your responsibilities? I know for me, I'm constantly thinking about work deadlines, household chores, so many things that need to be done to my house, mowing the lawn, getting the laundry done. I have 2 small children. I have a husband who now works at home and makes a ginormous mess during the day. I thought him working from home would actually help with this, and he would get a little honey-do list things done, but that's proven to be false. I'm constantly thinking of a grocery list in my head or on my phone, trying to keep everything stocked at my home so we never run out of anything. Juggling childcare. Some of you may have elder care issues, extracurricular activities. So something that my husband and I do, well, I do, and he does because I do it, is we add all of our kids' extracurricular activities, Boy Scouts, gymnastics, baseball, basketball, football. We add all those things, the practices, the games on our calendars. And I actually send him calendar invites for a lot of these things, even friends' birthday parties. And I know there's usually one person in the family who's always trying to remember birthdays and anniversaries and holidays. Today actually is my 15th wedding anniversary. And I'm always trying to make those things special for other people, but that's my love language, I guess. And it's just so hard to remember all those things and be good at everything all at once. My husband also thinks that I am a little too focused on fun, entertainment, and making memories, but I know we only live this life once, and I want my children to have the best childhood possible. So we try to focus on memories and not things. And we have the philosophy that we work hard and we play harder, and I'm exhausted. And then lastly, finances. Usually it's me that handles the finances in the marriage, and it's just so hard. I'm a little bit of a control freak, as you know. It's just hard to be able to juggle all these things. So my point is, to all these things, I hope I'm not stressing you out by talking about this. I'm stressing myself out. How do you manage your time at home, at work? How do you unplug and transition from one to the other? And the goal for today is to take the mental load, this is all mental load, of disaster planning for your family off your shoulders. So we already have the list complete for you. You don't have to really take a lot of time out of your other responsibilities to incorporate these preparedness things into your family and your schedule. So there are 4 steps to emergency preparedness. The first being be informed, make a plan, build an emergency kit, and get involved. So there's a lot of ways to get informed. And like I mentioned previously, we try to focus on the all hazards planning, but being aware of the naturally occurring events that happen in the state of Kentucky and in central Kentucky and wherever else you may go. I know a lot of our staff members may be on fall break this week with Fayette County schools. Being aware of things that might be presented to you when you travel. Kentucky is actually one of the highest states to have natural hazards occur in the area. A lot of people would think this might be Florida because of all the hurricanes, or Louisiana, or California and the West Coast with all the wildfires, but Kentucky actually is one of the top to experience natural disasters because we have such a variety. We have ice storms, we have tornadoes, we have floods. All those things impact us here in Kentucky and in the region. We also have a major fault line in Western Kentucky. So be informed of the things that could present a risk to you and your family and here on campus. And like I mentioned before, the natural occurring events that are most prevalent according to the UK Hazard Mitigation Steering Committee are these 12 things. Be informed. You know, I talked about that CAT survey and 60% of students thinking that personal responsibility was not up to them. It was up to someone else. So we try to really encourage personal responsibility, because following a major disaster, first responders who provide law enforcement, fire, emergency medical services will not be able to meet the demand for these services all at once. It's going to be in a phased approach. So factors such as number of victims, communication failures, and road blockages will prevent people from accessing emergency services that they have come to expect at a moment's notice through a phone call to 911. People will have to rely on each other for help in order to meet their immediate life-saving and life-sustaining needs. So you must be prepared to take care of yourselves until the professionals can get to you. You must be confident your home and family are taken care of before you can return to work. And you must be sure your family is okay before you can help anyone else. So that's the me, us, them philosophy. I can't be of help to others if I can't help myself or my family. And just personal responsibility, me, us, them. Like the airplane, the flight attendant announcements at the beginning of the plane, you know, to put your oxygen mask on first before you put it on someone else. I know this is kind of crazy to think about. Why would I do that? Why would I not put it on my child first? But I can't help my child unless I'm okay. I can't pass out from lack of oxygen before I put theirs on. Another way to be informed is knowing your warning methods, having a NOAA weather radio. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's what NOAA stands for, has these radios available at Walmart, Target, Kroger. They're usually under $30, and you can program the codes to be associated with warnings that are impacting your county. So I live in Madison County, so I've got actually Fayette and Madison programmed into my weather radio. And yes, these do kind of go off at all hours of the night because that's when natural disasters happen. And sometimes we receive tornado warnings or flash flood warnings during the night hours. Outdoor warning sirens, we have several of these across campus, and I'm going to show you a map here in a second. We also, from my office here in the 90, I can actually hear some of the outdoor warning sirens that are off campus that are operated by Lexington Fayette Urban County Government. There's tons of smartphone apps you can download. I know a lot of local news stations have apps that help monitor the weather, and you can turn on notifications to be informed of those things. And local TV and radio stations. Sometimes having a hand crank radio is important for maybe when you would lose power. So we can't always rely on local TV when we have a power outage or we're experiencing a pretty volatile storm. UK Alert. So like I mentioned, all students and staff are signed up for UK Alert. You can edit your account under My UK to include alternate phone numbers. So usually this includes a text message because that is usually the first way people receive the warning. It is the most reliable. We've kind of phased out phone calls. It wasn't being used as much as we had hoped. People were really relying on the text messages, and the phone calls were not reliable, I guess. And you'll also receive a UK alert through your My UK or your uky.edu email, unless you've signed up for signed another account up. If you have a VoIP desktop phone, a voice over internet protocol phone, you should also receive alerts through that, and as well as the outdoor warning sirens on campus, those blue phone towers. There's, I think, about 50 of them. So UK Central Security also helps with our UK Alert compliance, our Clery compliance, and our early warning systems. We do have over 40 emergency towers. We've integrated that also with our access control. So a lot of those red fire panels indoors that flash, I think it's a white and a yellow flashing light on those indoor speakers. Will also announce a UK alert. We have over 9,000 access control points where people can scan their badge. And some areas are actually capable of doing a lockdown, for lack of a better word, when necessary. These areas are usually high risk areas. And we have over 2,500 cameras on this campus. I know that gives me a feeling of safety and security, knowing that is there to possibly deter crime. So where are these 50 emergency notification towers? They're all over campus. And you'll probably notice an area kind of in the lower middle. This is our medical center, healthcare campus. And there's a lot of reasons that we aren't able to install the blue emergency phone towers here. Some of it has to do with environmental noise, helicopters, traffic, HVAC systems. These cameras were installed following a propagation study on how far the ranges would reach and how far the sounds could be heard. There's also a lot of buildings close together in the healthcare campus, so the range of that sound wasn't very far. It would just kind of bounce off the building walls. And also we wanted to provide kind of peace and healing for patients that may be in the hospital. Our goal is to figure out some kind of creative way to also include some type of alerts in that area. So each of these towers, this blue model pictured off to the right doesn't picture the camera that is on these. So each of these towers have a 360-degree camera on top, as well as a flashing light that flashes when activated. The top of the tower, where it starts to be like a cube, cylinder, square shape, those are where the speakers are located. And it also integrates a red push button that when pushed, it goes directly to UK Police Department Dispatch Center. And they can talk to you live while also looking at the camera angles around you. A lot of people no longer use this feature, and that's to be expected with the use of cell phones and apps. So apps, the LiveSafe app. I hope you all have this downloaded. This is a partnership between the UK student government and UK police to offer this amenity this feature to our campus community. Anyone can download it. It's got a lot of capabilities such as reporting tips. You can do so anonymously if you would like to report a tip. You can also include a picture or a video with your tip. You can a lot of times chat live or do a test with a dispatcher if you need to do so. So simply typing test into the report tips area, or actually the emergency options area, you can text with a dispatcher and they will reply to let you know that your test worked. Emergency options, if you open this feature, excuse me, it will include an option to call 911. So a 911 phone call from your cell phone will actually go to Lexington's dispatch center. It will include another button to call UK police. So if you are calling UK police from a desktop phone, 911 will go to UK police if you're on campus. Pound UKPD on your cell phone will reach campus police. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. There's also an area for resources, what to do in different types of emergency situations and different protocols we like to recommend. You can also use the Go Safe feature to have a buddy virtually walk with you so they can watch your dot move along the map. So maybe late at night, I'm working late. I would like my husband to watch me walk from my office to my car, and he can virtually see me move on the map. I think you can also request wild cab services from here and several other options. So making a plan. We're going to talk about developing a family communication plan, creating a shelter-in-place plan, create a plan to get away, and knowing your plans at school and at work. So how do we develop a family communications plan? The first thing I would recommend would be to have an out-of-state contact. My out-of-state contact is cousin Nikki. She lives in Ocala, Florida. So if communications are completely unavailable, I'm going to try to find a way to let her know, either by landline phone, cell phone if it's working, email, any way possible. I'm going to try to let her know that I'm okay. My husband and my other family members also know to call cousin Nikki if we aren't together. So say I'm at work and my husband is at home working, and a tornado comes through and it's a regional impact and there are no communications modes available. We're going to do our best to somehow, some way, let Nikki know that I'm okay, and hopefully she's heard from my husband and she can tell me that he's okay. Try to think about how you would get in touch with each other without the use of phones. One of the good rules of thumb, a good rule of thumb is to meet at the last place you spoke face to face, or the last place you ate, or the last place you slept, which is, more than likely your home. Also talk about these things with your children. Identify a meetup spot that's outside of your home, in your neighborhood, or just outside of your neighborhood, and work with your children to memorize phone numbers and write them down in a secure place. My 9-year-old is just now memorizing phone numbers of different family members. He's known mine and my husband's for quite a while, but now he's learning how to dial maybe his Nana or his pops on using a keypad without just pressing the contact name. And I know it's so hard in this day and age to remember phone numbers. I think the only phone number I remember is my childhood phone number, without using, what we rely on as your saved contacts. But those phone numbers are very important to know. So create a plan to shelter in place. So basically you want to keep the bad stuff outside and the good air inside. Bring family and pets inside, lock doors, close windows. Depending on the incident, you may also want to close air vents and fireplaces. I live in Madison County, and some of you may be aware of the Chemical Stockpile Emergency Preparedness Program, CSEP. This is the program that helps manage some of the bad stuff that's kept at the Bluegrass Army Depot in Richmond, including mustard gas. If you need to, turn off air conditioning, forced air heating systems, exhaust fans, even clothes dryers, keeping that bad stuff outside and the good air inside. Sometimes if it's an air quality emergency, take your emergency supplies and go into the room that you have designated. This could be an upper floor or an area with no windows. In a tornado situation, of course, you want to go to the lower floor in an area with no windows, maybe under a staircase or in a closet or even in a bathtub. Sometimes people are protected from flying debris when they are able to protect themselves with a mattress or even a bicycle helmet. This is just a temporary measure to create a barrier between you and whatever hazard there is that is presenting itself. So creating a plan to get away. So like I mentioned before, every building on campus should have a BEEP, a Building Emergency Action Plan. These evacuation plans should be posted near an entrance or an exit to know the nearest exit, but it's also important to talk about this at home. If there's a fire on the first floor, how are we to exit and get out of the house safely? Is there a meetup spot maybe where we all meet up? For my kids, I know I've told them to meet at the tree that we decorate for Easter. We put Easter eggs on this tree. Go meet at the Easter egg tree if there's a fire. Don't worry about anything that's out inside. Don't worry about mommy and daddy. Don't worry about the pets. Don't worry about your stuff. Just get out of the house. And talking about these things, normalize it. Talk about it at the dinner table. So not only at home and at work, but it's also important to know these plans at your children's school, maybe the church that you attend. I know that I was really concerned about some of the plans that were in place at my kids' daycare when they were younger. And even when you go to a restaurant, where's the nearest exit if there is a crisis and you need to evacuate? Try to notice these things the next time that you're out in public, and then talk about them as a family. What would you do? My kids love to play the what if game, and what would you do in this scenario? So step 3, get a kit. If I were giving this presentation in person, I would bring out a large Tupperware bin, full Rubbermaid bin, full of different supply kits. But since we're virtual today, we're just going to talk about them briefly. So you want to have at least 1 gallon of water per person per day that you're sheltering. You want to include non-perishable foods, a radio, hand crank or battery powered if possible, flashlight and extra batteries. We know batteries go bad very quickly. A first aid kit, a whistle. This can be used in search and rescue operations and can be very useful. A dust mask, baby wipes, garbage bags, other things to dispose of in a sanitary way. Wrench and pliers. These things can be used to shut off water at your home. A can opener. You know, if you have these non-perishable foods stored, how are you going to open them if you are relying on maybe an electric can opener? Also, local maps. This is, you know, something that we've kind of taken for granted with the use of cell phones and apps and ways and different ways of wayfinding nowadays. But having even an atlas at home or a local map can be helpful and can be quite life-saving. Additional items to consider other than just your basic items, your prescription medications, glasses, and contacts, of course. Infant diapers and needs, pet food, water, your family documents, account numbers, insurance cards, cash. This is something I never have anymore. Cash. Have some on hand. You just never know. First aid reference book. You may know basic first aid, but I know for me, I would have to look up a couple things for maybe a specialty injury that I may not know a lot about. Sleeping bags, blankets for each person, change of clothes and shoes, of course, household bleach, a fire extinguisher, matches, personal hygiene items, paper products. You know, you're not going to be able to, depending on the incident, you're not going to be able to wash dishes, or the dishwasher may not work, but having disposable items such as plates, cups, utensils, paper towels, toilet paper, this will help keep your area clean in the instance of no water or no electric. Paper and pencil, you know, this can go a long way, especially if you keep all these things in one spot, knowing that you can go to this kit and pull out anything that you might need in the situation. And, you know, for those of us with kids or who have relatives, activities for children, you know, they get bored quickly. And, you know, without their electronic devices, they may have to rely on a game of Uno or a card game or something like that. Creating a go kit. So this is a lot like an emergency kit, only it's smaller, more compact, and you can take it on the go. This is what we recommend for, you know, our college students, something that they can keep in their dorm room. You want to be able to have a go kit for a quick evacuation, or maybe you keep this in your vehicle. You want something that has the size and the ease of carrying something like a backpack. Finally, get involved. Here are a couple ways you can get involved. Like I mentioned, we have a campus community emergency response team here on campus. These pictures show some of the exercises that we've had in the past. This one in particular was held over at the Commons area and around Central Campus. That's no longer here. So this was like the Kerwin Blanding Complex, and we use these empty facilities to host a mass casualty exercise at the conclusion of this CERT class. So what do you learn during a CERT class? You learn fire safety and suppression. You learn light search and rescue, disaster medical operations. This is like an enhanced first aid trauma type of class. You learn team organization. This is kind of like a reporting structure or a org chart for a team, depending on your size. You learn about disaster psychology. We host some subject matter experts from the FBI during this session. And we also talk about terrorism and some of the threats to Kentucky and Lexington. So using the training learned in the classroom and during exercises, the CCERT program and the members can assist others in their neighborhood or workplace following an event when professional responders are not immediately able to help. So CCERT serves as a complement to the University of Kentucky's Police Department and their response to serious events. So after receiving training, these faculty and staff members, it's only open to faculty and staff from across campus, may be activated to close roads and direct flow of traffic away from a scene. They may evacuate buildings and assist in keeping the facility closed until it's deemed safe. They could serve as a liaison between UK police officers and other responding agencies. They'll be able to suppress small fires and use fire extinguishers to help in evacuations. And other duties as needed as a force multiplier for the UK Police Department and our partnering agencies. So UK Campus CERT, it's organized under our division, Crisis Management and Preparedness. It's open only to faculty and staff. This is a federal program with a very specific curriculum. And we have expanded our program to actually be 40 hours. So not only do we talk about personal preparedness, but we also talk a lot about the uniqueness of the infrastructure here at UK and how to adequately respond given the situation. So we actually expanded our program to include discussions with our utility partners, such as Kentucky American Water, Columbia Gas or Delta Gas, I think, as well as Kentucky Utilities and LG&E. They all come and talk about utility safety. We host this CERT class once annually, and we haven't been able to do this since the beginning of COVID. So we hope to bring that back very soon. And this course is actually considered working time. We partnered with HR to be able to offer this. It's held usually one day a week for a series of 5 weeks. So for example, maybe every Wednesday for 5 weeks, we'll meet and talk about a different subject. Lexington also has a CERT program with the Lexington Division of Emergency Management. It's open to anyone 18 and older. That program is only 27 hours. They host it twice annually in the spring and the fall, and they do theirs for 9 weeks. Some other ways to get involved, of course, taking first aid, CPR, and AED training. Stop the Bleed, that's with our UK Medical Center Trauma Program and in partnership with UK Police. Red Cross disaster relief programs, the Medical Reserve Corps, CCERT at Lexington and here at UK. Lexington and UK also have a Citizens of Police Academy. We have a class going on right now, actually, on Wednesday nights. There's the Citizens Fire Academy that Lexington hosts, active shooter training with our Community Affairs Department with Officer Alan Saylor and Officer Culver and his partner, K9 Hudson. There's also a STAR class. This is open to females. It is a self-defense tactics and risk reduction course where you're learning self-defense and just becoming a preparedness ambassador in your community. So incorporate preparedness into your daily lives. Talk about it frequently with all your members of your family. Get others involved. Make it part of normalize it. Make it a part of your discussion with your kids in your car when you're driving home from soccer practice, or talk about it at the dinner table, or make a game out of it, like a what would you do scenario, like I talked about before. And finally, these are the 4 steps to emergency preparedness. Be informed, make a plan, build an emergency kit, and get involved. So I haven't been monitoring the chat, and hopefully you all have some questions for me, but if you'd like to unmute your mic, maybe Jamie can help with this. Let me know what questions you have. And if I can't answer them, I'd be glad to talk with you at another time on a one-on-one session. Happy anniversary. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for me? Awesome. Well, here's my contact information, my email and my phone number. I'd be happy to chat with you. Oh, there's a good question. What do you recommend putting in a go kit for 5th and 9th graders? Okay, this is good. What would I recommend? I would recommend a bottle of water, maybe some type of granola bar, a deck of cards, a jacket, or some type of blanket, maybe an emergency blanket in case you need to keep them warm. I know that there was an incident, a snow emergency on I-75 last winter where so many families were stranded on I-75 and they couldn't do anything. So think about, if you're stranded in your car with kids, what would you want in your car to keep them occupied and to keep them safe, to keep them warm? And non-perishable food for sure. Jackets, one of those reflective, maybe, is it called a Mylar blanket? And so maybe some activities, definitely in a way to stay hydrated. A small first aid kit. My son's a Boy Scout, and he carries a small first aid kit in his backpack at all times. So something like that. Yes, great. Flashlight, hand warmers. Thank you, Lindsay. Perfect. She's got a young son.